Hey guys, and welcome back to the Planners Who Profit podcast. As you know, Planners Who Profit is the home of next level trainings for the experienced event planner. All right, so we talk all about advanced strategies, advanced topics, and all the good stuff here. And this podcast is our free method of teaching. So I'm excited that you guys are here. This is going to be great. If you have not watched any of the podcasts yet, my name is Faye Shala. I'm the host. I'm the creator of Planners Who Profit and all the suite of programs under it, including the Planners Who Profit Accelerator, Planners Who Profit Live, our event, and of course here, the Planners Who Profit podcast. All right. I'm really excited. We've been having an amazing time. And today I want to share something that's really important and near and dear to my heart. In our programs, we help event planners all the time grow significantly more profitable event planning businesses. We've helped people go from literally, no exaggeration, under 10K a year to over six figures in a year, in 1 year, right? We've helped people make 5 times more their revenue, make double their revenue, like significant jumps. And it's exciting. It's wonderful, right? But one thing that I will say I don't talk too often about is that people are usually seeing the financial increases pretty quickly after joining, right? Usually within weeks or a couple of months, they're already seeing, getting higher level bookings, attracting way more leads and all that good stuff. And then the real work starts, right? When it comes to growing yourself and being able to manage all of this business, but also going through the growing pains that come with building a larger, more profitable business. There are a couple of things that I want to talk about today. I'm excited. These are things that we've helped clients go through. Of course, I went through that transition myself while growing my business. And I'm here to prepare you, all right? For those of you who have your eyes set on a more profitable business, this podcast is for you, all right? And we're going to be preparing you. So I hope you're ready. Grab your pen, your paper, right? Prepare to take notes because this is going to be a really fun journey, all right? Like I said, we have 5 things that I'm going to be sharing today, and I'm just going to start on down the list, okay? So first up, I want to talk about the pain point of getting used to waiting for the right clients versus booking whoever comes your way, right? A lot of times, again, we work with experienced event planners who are already booking business, who are busy. It's just that you're usually busy on the kind of events that are more budget or not necessarily your target market, right? Or maybe family and friends and things like that. And in the beginning phases, you get excited whenever you book anything, right? And it's like, man, I booked someone. That's a win. It doesn't matter if you book them for $500 or $5,000. It's a win, right? Because you're able to make progress. And usually your focus is on proving yourself, right? And when you're trying to prove yourself, you just want to do as many events as possible so you can prove that you can handle it, right? So that people can see that you're busy and all that good stuff, right? And that's actually a good place to start. But when you start to get to a higher price point, the truth of the matter is that at a certain point, you stop wanting to do 20, 30 weddings a year, right? Most of the time, you want to be able to do 10 weddings and blow it out the park and still have time, right, to live your life, to spend time with your family, your husband, your children, your friends, travel, spend time on your hobbies, volunteer, right, wherever is important to you. And a lot of times those things are difficult when you're doing 30 weddings a year, right, when you're working every single weekend or double header weekends and all of that, right? So a lot of times on the surface, we all know this. We all know on the surface, like, oh yeah, on the surface, it's like, yeah, I would love to have a 6-figure business with, anywhere between 8 and 12 clients, right? I would love to do that. It makes sense in theory. But then in practice, when you start to get leads and you're like, oh, this person seems like a good fit, but this person's not a good fit. Like they don't have the money, but I just want to you're just used to booking whoever comes your way, discounting to get the business. You're used to reducing your price, right? You're used to charging based off of the person's budget, right? So if their total wedding budget is $30,000, now you're charging $3,000, right? Because you're charging according to their budget versus sticking to your price point of, hey, moving forward, I want $6,500 per wedding, or $10,000 per wedding, or $15,000 per wedding, whatever you decided. You find yourself going back into old habits. And the truth is that a lot of times the reason people do this is they're like, well, last year, this time I had 15 bookings by this time. Like it's June, and last June I had 15 bookings already. Right now I only have 5, right? And it's like, okay, but what is your goal for next year, right? You said you wanted to get into the higher end market. You wanted to produce amazing events. You wanted to work fewer weekends. So what is your goal for next year? If your goal was 10 and it's June and you've got 5, you actually are kind of on track, right? Obviously you've got to fill in more bookings before the end of the year or early the next year, but you have to remember that frame of mind. And a lot of times people forget and go right back to old habits. I see, a lot of times people ask, like, what is the difference between people who come into our program, and within weeks, they're soaring beyond everyone. They are, the people who made it to the 6-figure club in 1 year. There's some people who make it in a couple of years, and that's okay. But what is the difference? And a big part of it is being ready to let go of your old habits. Being ready to say, okay, I don't have to book every single client the way I did last year. I'm going to wait for the right client. I tell one of the stories that I tell my clients all the time is there was a time that I was in this transition period as well, where I was like, listen, I'm amazing at what I do. I've at the time had, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years of experience. I'm good at what I do. I raised my rates, and a client came who requested a discount, and I gave it to them because they said they were interested in a venue that I loved and I'd worked in before. They ended up not booking that venue because they wanted something cheaper. I should have seen that coming, but that's a whole other story. So anyways, I booked this client, and the whole process was very difficult because they just expected a discount from everyone. They just did not want to make decisions, right? They just, there was just a lot of, today they wanted to figure out how to get the budget cheaper. Tomorrow they were trying to figure out how to make it more luxurious, and the budget doesn't matter. They were a little all over the place, and it was a very difficult process of planning this event. But during the process of me planning the event, after I closed that client, no exaggeration, I had at least 3 or 4 inquiries for the exact same wedding date, right? And these clients had bigger budgets, a couple of them had already booked the venue, and they were amazing venues. And it was just like a better opportunity for me, right? And I learned a very valuable lesson that sometimes it is better to wait for the right client to come around, right? Versus just taking whoever comes first, just because I'm thinking about, oh, well, I just need to book as fast as possible. I just need to book at least 3 weddings every month. I just need to, I just made up these arbitrary numbers, and I just need to make sure I'm moving forward by booking as fast as I can, right? And that was literally how I ended up in the situation. Even though, and yes, I closed the client, we made it to the wedding was beautiful. But I always think about the fact that I literally ended up having to turn down so many other amazing weddings because I booked this person first, because I wasn't willing to wait for the right one, right? And so one thing that I found, because we've done a lot of different things at Statuesque events, there's been times that we've booked clients on a really long time frame, right? Clients are booking like 2 years in advance. Usually it's because they're on a tight budget, right? And they're like, I need 2 years to save for it. And we've had clients say, hey, I want to get married in 4 months. Can you do it? And those ones usually have have a bigger budget, right? And one thing I found is that with those clients who are trying to move quickly, usually the really cheap options are already booked, and the more maybe the people who are more seasoned, the people who are at a higher price point, all that stuff are not. Right. But it doesn't matter because those clients also have the money. So a lot of times it becomes a matter of, hey, setting the goal for your year. If you want to have 12 weddings, set that and stick to it, right? It doesn't matter if you did 25 last year, decide on your goal and then work towards that goal. Forget about what you did before, focus on now, and stop comparing like your old season or your old habits to where you are right now, because you have to wait for the right client. I know that this can be difficult. It's an emotional thing, right? It's honestly a little bit of an ego trip, but it's an emotional thing. But really getting to the point where you're like, I'm ready to wait for the right clients versus comparing my today with what the quantity of events I had last year is going to be really, really important, right? So I think that is the first pain point, is letting go of your old habits, right? Letting go of, and being willing to wait for the right clients. So we're going to take a really brief break right now. We're going to take a really brief break. I'm seeing the sun coming up. We're going to take a really brief break right now. And right after the break, I'm going to give you more of the tips, right? And more of the pain points that are common when you are building a more profitable business, all right? And on that journey to 6 figures. So stay tuned. Planners Who Profit Live is our annual event that celebrates event planners of all kinds every single year, and you absolutely cannot afford to miss it. All right, this is the event to come. Bring your friend, bring your assistant, bring your associate planner to really immerse yourself in next level thinking, next level strategies, and to get refreshed for your next event season. Visit plannerswhoprofitlive.com and register to join us for this event. The experience is phenomenal every single year. The community is truly next level, and the things that you learn are truly actionable. This is an investment both in yourself and in your business that you can't afford to miss out on, all right? So make sure that you come, bring your team, tell a friend, and we can't wait to see you in person at our very next Planners Who Profit Live. We can't wait to see you there. Guys, welcome back. We're back from the break, and I want to give you a couple more tips on the list, right? A couple more things on the list as far as pain points to keep in mind, things, mindset shifts that you really have to make essentially if you're ready to truly go after a more profitable six-figure business. Now, a more profitable six-figure business means you're getting more done in less time. You're making more money with fewer clients, right? That is like the profit part of it. And of course, making more money is great, but the profit part is when you're doing it in less time. You're more efficient and all of that. So we're going to start talking about that. Now, I already talked about letting go of your old habits, not comparing last year to this year, and not just booking every single person who comes around and calling that a victory, right? Now, the second pain point that you're going to have to get past when you're growing towards a more profitable six-figure business is dealing with your old packages that you booked before you made the shift, right? So a lot of times when we're working with people in our program, we help them to completely restructure their packages to a way that's really valuable, and also that you are, and of course, helping you to be more efficient with each of those packages. The challenge is that a lot of times people have already sold a lot of packages with their old mindset, and they have these contracts that they have to close out, right? With that came from the past mindset. There are a couple of examples of this. For instance, we've had clients who've agreed to all kinds of things, right? Everything under the sun, we're going to drive you around. I'm exaggerating, but we're going to do everything. We're going to mail your invitations for you, or we'll pay for the postage. We will, stuff your favors. We'll do everything for you, build your wedding website, and it's for some cheap amounts. That's less now than what they're even charging for coordination, right? And they've already agreed to do that with like maybe 5 clients. And now we've helped them. They're starting to book people at a higher price point. They're seeing the way people are valuing their time at that price point and all of that. But you still got to deal with these people that you're in a contractual relationship with, right? Here's the thing. I will say, I'm gonna be honest. My advice is that you still got to close out those contracts, right? You made an obligation. You told these people you agreed to do something, right? So you do have to finish it out. And the truth is that a lot of times it's going to be a little bit irritating, because now you've really understood the value of what you provide. You've understood it, and you're maybe you're overworking for pennies, or maybe you're doing things that are outside of the realm of your true passion, right? Like maybe you threw in floral design, right? But that's not even really your passion. And now you realize you don't need to be a florist to sell high-end event planning packages, right? So when it comes to all these things, it can be a little irritating to feel locked into your old way of thinking and your old methodology, where now you're trying to move forward, right? And so you're kind of balancing the two. And it is painful, but the truth of the matter is that you have to see it as a project. Once you close out those projects, those events, then you get to just continue with a clean slate with your clients that are moving forward, right? So that is the mindset part of it. You just have to embrace. For those of you out here who are like, oh, you know what? I would love to, get started, join like the PWP accelerator, or join a program and, blow up my business. But I want to wait until after I book 10 clients before I do this. This is something to keep in mind, that this is also a result of that, right? When you wait until after you have so many clients and now you're trying to restructure and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I sold that. I can't believe I was doing that. And I can't believe that now I'm in these agreements for the next year, or for the next 6 months, or for the next year and a half, right? With these clients, with these things that I should have negotiated differently. I should have packaged them differently, right? Now, of course, there's certain things that you can do to make it a little easier. For instance, when I started working with the Aisle Planner, I've been with the Aisle Planner forever. But when I decided to start using the Aisle Planner, I picked a date. I picked a cutover date, and I moved all of my existing clients into Aisle Planner by that date, right? I let them know, like, hey, moving forward, we're not using Google Docs. We're going to be using the system. I sent you an invitation with your login. This is how it's going to work, right? I set a cutoff date. I know a lot of people try this whole thing of, I'll just do these people in Google Docs and these people in Aisle Planner, but I didn't want to do that. I was like, for something like this, I can set a cutoff date. And the truth is, most of my clients thanked me for it because of the way I transitioned them over and the way that I made it easier for them in the new system than in the old, right? Pro tip, if you're going to transition people, the new has to be easier than the old. But that was pretty much what I did there. That's something that you can do to make it easier. But I'm talking about like, undercharging, severely undercharging and overworking yourself, but you've already signed an agreement. You kind of can't go back to the client and be like, oh, just kidding, you got to pay me double now, right? After you've already signed the contract, it's legally binding on both sides. So you want to, this is why I always say like today's a great day to get started with restructuring, like setting up your business to draw in the right leads and moving forward, right? Now, another way that this can hit you is that we had a client who we actually have had many clients in this similar category, but who by the time they joined our program, they never actually had a full service wedding planning client, right? Like maybe they planned their own wedding start to finish, but they never had a paid full service client before. And so a lot of people in this category, your whole business is almost revolves around coordination. It's almost like everything you think about, you don't really know how to structure your sales, your value proposition, and everything around full service planning, right? So essentially, she was more, a lot of people in this category were more comfortable selling coordination than full service planning. But once, and she sold some full service planning, and I remember distinctly saying, hey, you might want to consider setting a cap, right? And saying, this is how many, maybe I'm going to do 6 coordination clients a year, and after that we're not selling the service, right? These are the only packages we have available. But they were like, no, I like the momentum, I want to keep booking, I want to go about my route. And I said, hey, if you can handle more weddings, do it. About 8 or so months later, I checked in on her. I do check in on our alumni. We check in on people, of course, who are in the program, but also our alumni. And when I asked, what is your biggest pain point right now? The pain point was I oversold coordination. And it's just frustrating because I'm doing so much work when I could have sold more, when I could have just had less of this and just focused on selling full service, right? Because I have a lot of full service as well. And I honestly would have been all right just with that and just a few of the coordination. But because I was in such a rush to just close as many clients as possible early on, I have so many more. And, I'm just going through the process of closing that out before I start setting a limit on coordination clients moving forward. So again, a lot of these things, it's easy to mull over and say, that's not my problem. Right now, I'm just trying to get clients. If I could close a client, I'll just be happy. That's cool. But the truth is that as you continue to expand your mind, as your business grows, as you attract a higher caliber of client, what makes you happy and what works for you is going to change and grow, right? And so it's important for you to know that this is a possible pain point for you, right? And what I would name this pain point is irritating old packages. Right? The packages that you used to just be excited to sell before now become irritating because you see a much better way of doing things, right? But, kind of dealing with the time to close those out before you can fully focus on what you've built moving forward. Now, the third thing that can be a pain point for a lot of event planners when you're really growing is having a focus on systems. I have to say this, and I don't mean to be shady, but most event planners, ironically, I'm finding are very disorganized. Which is crazy because our whole job is to organize people's events, right? Keep them organized, keep them on task. But I'm finding that a lot of event planners are focused almost entirely on design. You're not even thinking about, order, right? And it's almost like you're just constantly organizing chaos versus having a streamlined and easy process. And it doesn't have to be that way. But in order to get around this, you have to have a focus on systems. You have to have processes, right? You have to do things the same way each time, right? A system is usually a combination of processes and tools. So you use the same processes and the same tools each time to get things done. When you're designing an event, you have a process. When you are presenting a design to your client, you have a process. When you are building a timeline, you have a process, right? When you're communicating with vendors, you have a process. That way you don't need to have a 45, 50, back and forth emails to your photographer. You can just kind of streamline and say, hey, here's the rundown of everything that we need, or here's the rundown of how the day's going to flow. Do you have any questions? Because you have a process and you have a template and everything's kind of covered, right? In one go, right? It makes it easier for everybody. And all that. I can't tell you how many people that we talk to. I talk to, sometimes on our email list and things like that when I'm checking in with people, and they tell me, oh man, I know in order for me to be more profitable, I need to book more clients, but I have like 2 full service clients a year and I'm like worn out. I'm worn out from the 2. The reason you're worn out To be honest, it's because of your lack of systems. It's because you are reinventing the wheel every single time you have to do something. And because things that could be done in 1 or 2 steps, you are drawing out into 20 steps because you're not organizing, because you're not thinking things through. Right? So, really graduate into that mindset of having a system focus it's a whole different way of thinking of things. I know a lot of people are like, well, I just feel like I could just send a quick text. It would just be faster if I sent a quick text. But usually when I fast forward 4 months later and I'm asking them what are their pain points, it's because of the fact that now you're trying to plan an entire wedding via text message because it's faster versus having your processes and keeping things where they're supposed to be. Right? So I think that, really thinking systems, not everything is an emergency. Really thinking, how do I ask for what I need early? Not waiting until it's an emergency so that I'm like constantly putting out fires. Like systems and processes is what gets you to this place of ease and eliminating hurry, eliminating rushing, as you're planning events. So those are some things that you definitely want to keep in mind. I've got 2 more coming right after this really, really brief break. And then of course, we're going to wrap up. If you've been enjoying this podcast, it is time for you to join the PWP squad. And you can do that today 100% free. Visit PWP Workshop, and that'll give you everything that you need to sign up for our vault of free trainings on marketing, sales, and systems designed to get you started on your journey to your first 100K in business. So guys, we're back and I'm ready to share, the last 2 pain points to keep in mind that are going to come up when you're really making this journey to a profitable 6-figure business. Now, this one may sound a little frou-frou and a little like, oh my gosh, up in the clouds, but it's really important. And the 4th one is going to be killing your ego, right? I believe that in order to, the more you kill your ego, the more profitable you become. When you do things out of ego, you end up losing money. An example would be paying for followers on social media, right? I've never loved this, but a lot of people do this. Pay for followers, pay for engagement, right? Your ego is telling you people need to see that you got a lot of followers. People need to see this. So instead of, and so what that makes you do is that instead of you using social media to make money, you are spending money to use social media. Right? And you're spending money to use social media so that other people can see that you have followers. When social media is actually as a business, right? Personal social media is different. Entertainment, connecting with your friends. But when as a business owner, social media should be used to generate leads, to make money, right? To draw people to your business and draw people in who are ready to buy. And so you've lost the whole point of it because you're chasing ego. Another example would be that a lot of people are doing things because you're trying to show off to other vendors. Like your primary focus is to be seen by your peers, is to be seen and for people to recognize you, right? You're choosing the conferences you're going to based off of, wanting to be seen in the industry, wanting people to recognize you and recognize your name, right? Versus choosing conferences that are going to give you information that's going to help you to actually grow, right? So making decisions out of ego versus decisions out of that are going to actually bring you business and money and leads. This is how people end up draining their accounts and you don't have anything left. And, you're like, I did a lot of activity, but none of it is working. A lot of times it's because you got sidetracked because of your ego, right? I think that, there is, I'm going to be honest, there's the kind of content that, gets you seen by your clients is also going to get you seen by your peers. But a lot of people are posting content like, you're trying to be a thought leader, right? Even though you plan 1 or 2 events a year, but now you want to be a thought leader. You want to, you just want to be seen at conferences and stuff like that. That's not bad if you're invited, right? However, those things don't mean anything to couples. It doesn't mean anything to them when they see you at conferences. It doesn't mean like what matters to them is, can you produce the event that I want, right? Same thing with corporations. None of those things matter. The only thing that matters is, can you produce this event for me, right? And truthfully, with a lot of corporations, can you do it in a really short time frame? Because that's usually when they're booking, right? So that's what people care about. But you're so busy just trying to be seen by your peers. And the worst part about all of this is that a lot of times your peers are not going to be giving you referrals, because most of those other vendors that you're trying to impress actually rely on planners for their business. Most vendors get most of their business from clients who already have event planners, or maybe event planners who are referred, or maybe the client, most of these vendors are relying on planners to bring their business. You know what that means? They don't have that many referrals to give to you. So you're spending all this time on an outlet source that's not really going to pour back into you, right? And again, you may get a few referrals from vendors, but most of the time it's going to be for your lowest package for coordination. And if the vendor had to work that hard to convince the client to book coordination, guess what? That client wants the cheapest possible coordinator, right? It's not something that they value and that they're going to really invest in, right? Which again puts you back in the cycle. So the best way to get out of this is to focus on, how do I attract my people? How do I attract my clients to me, right? Stop worrying about what other people are thinking, what other vendors, because truthfully, they're not thinking about you, right? They're busy trying to grow their own businesses. That's the other part. So instead of worrying about them, figure out how to get your clients. And the amazing thing for me is that when I first started getting invited to speak at conferences and events and stuff like that, it was because of how clear I was in speaking to multicultural clients in the DC area. I was very clear. I was giving great tips. I was showing insight. I was showing how I could help people move forward. And then from that, a conference that I'd heard of, but I didn't know anyone in the community. I didn't know anyone personally. They reached out to me and they said, hey, people are asking, they want to learn more about multicultural weddings. They want to learn more about marketing, or they want to learn more about this. And we think that you would be a great person to do it. Are you available to come speak? That was how I started speaking. It wasn't even from pitching. It wasn't because I decided to be a thought leader and do workshops and stuff like that. All of those things came after I started speaking, right? When people started to request it. But so it's interesting. Sometimes focusing on things in the wrong order gets you nothing. Focusing on trying to be a thought leader when you don't have clients ends up getting you nothing. Instead, when you can focus on getting your clients and really doing excellent work and showcasing that excellent work, then it attracts everything else that you're looking for. So I think that that's something to keep in mind. Killing your ego, right? Stop worrying about trying to impress other people and worry about trying to put money in your pockets, okay? One last thing I want to say about killing your ego is that most of the clients that we have that made it into the six-figure club fast, like made it, went almost 0 to like 60 for real quick, had less than 2,000 followers on Instagram. So it wasn't a matter of, I got to figure out how to get 10K followers and then I'll get business. No, they focused on getting a business. It wasn't about, I need people to see that I have all these followers. No. Right. So again, killing your ego, killing your need to impress your peers, and instead focusing on getting your clients. That is going to be key. And the more you grow, the more you have to focus on that, right? Because that's what you need to do. All right. Now, the last thing, we're rounding out with number 5. The last pain point and thing that you're going to have to deal with as you're making this move, to a profitable six-figure business is team building. Team building. I don't know how many event planners I've either coached or spoken to who are like, I don't want a team, or I'm a bad manager, or, if you want things done right, you got to do it yourself. I think to a degree, that could be right, but that's only right when you don't have systems and processes, right? If you're doing everything by instinct, no one else has the same instinct as you, right? I always say it like, you can teach process, but you can't teach instinct, right? This is why, again, we work with experienced event planners. A lot of people say, I've been to a lot of workshops and I never got what I got out of working with you. That's because what we sell is process, not instinct, right? A lot of other people are amazing. They just may not be able to translate what makes them amazing to you. So it doesn't stop them from being amazing. But we sell process. We don't sell instinct, right? But the truth is that when you're working with a team, you got to focus on process over instinct. That's the most important thing. That's the best way to translate things through. That's why when you go to Chipotle anywhere, you kind of get the same thing, right? Or Kava anywhere, you kind of get the same thing because they focus on process. So team building and vision casting and really getting, there's different levels, of course, of team building. At the most basic level that all of us have to be able to do is managing a team of assistants. You cannot plan events alone. You really honestly shouldn't even plan an event with just one assistant. You should always, you probably should have 2, right? And in order to manage a team of 2 people through an event, you got to be able to communicate. You have to be able to set clear expectations. right? And in order to use them versus just kind of having them there, in order for them to actually be able to support you, you have to set clear expectations about what's needed. So team building is a challenge for a lot of people, especially when you don't have any margin in your schedule. When you're producing 30 events and you're planning all 30 of those events by text message, right? And you have no room to breathe, it makes it difficult then to team build, because you feel like you don't have time to explain things to your team. But when you let go, now we're coming full circle, right? You can see how all these points intertwine with each other. You're producing maybe 10, 15 events a year, and you have more margin to be excellent and to help your team understand what to do and to build timelines that are very clear and that they can pretty much run for you, right? And all of this, then it all works together and you're able to work with the team. The last thing is also managing a team. A lot of people are afraid of certain things, if you got a team member who literally never performs, they should not be on your team anymore, right? First, you explain to them, hey, this is our standard. Once again, this is our standard. This goes back to vision casting, like I just said, saying our standard is you're supposed to start at 9 a.m. You should plan to be there by 8:55. So you're in the door there by 9 a.m. Like set the standards and let people know when they're missing the standard. Be willing to have difficult conversations. And then let people go if they're not missing it. I don't know, again, how many planners I've spoken to who are like, how do you find people who actually just do what they're supposed to do? Or how do you find people who show up on time? Because my team, everybody's late. You know the problem? When people come into an environment where just doing whatever you want is the standard, then everybody's just going to do whatever they want. Right? But when they come into an environment where it's like everybody is like on time, on their P's and Q's, everybody's going to show up and do well. So you got to let go of the people who are not performing, because what ends up happening is that permeates everybody else. And then everybody's coming late. I don't think I've ever really spoken to anyone who's like, oh yeah, I have this one person who's always really late, but everybody else is punctual. The issue usually is that everybody's like that. And there's a reason. It's because you've let it linger for too long. So really running your business and just setting standards. This is the standard, and then holding people to the standard that you set, right? A lot of times and this means killing your need to be liked or stop trying to be a people pleaser, because at this point you are running a business, right? Welcome to entrepreneurship. You're running a business, right? And it doesn't mean you have to be mean, and you definitely should not be disrespectful, but you do have to hold people to the standards. Otherwise you're not going to get them. All right. And also, to be honest, you're going to lose your excellent people. Excellent people don't like being in environments with low standards. So you're going to lose the excellent people, and you're going to keep the people who keep dragging everyone down. That's what's going to happen, right? So these are all things that you want to do. All right. I hope this has been helpful for you. Just to recap real quick, the 5 pain points were waiting for the right, being able and having the patience to wait for the right clients versus going back to old habits and booking whoever comes your way. The second one is dealing with irritating old packages that you sold in the past and now you can contractually have to fulfill. The third one is shifting to a systems focus versus constantly putting out fires. The fourth one is killing your ego. It's got to die. And just to let you know, it's kind of like a zombie movie. You got to kill it over and over again. It's not like a one-time death, so prepare for that. And the fifth thing is being ready to be a manager of a team, right? Managing a team, getting into a team mindset where you're managing a team, you're able to vision cast and hold people accountable. All right. So I hope this is helpful. These are things that you got to prepare mentally to do. If you're like, listen, I want to grow to 6 figures, I want to grow to 100K, and 100K shouldn't be the end of your goal, by the way. Once you hit that, you want to grow beyond that, right? And these are things you got to go deeper and deeper into as you're doing that. Now, I hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast. For those of you on YouTube, make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe. For those of you who are watching on any other platform, make sure you subscribe to this podcast. All right. Let the peoples know that you enjoyed this. Share this with someone who needs to see this. And I'm really excited that you guys have been enjoying this. We have a few more episodes coming. I hope you enjoy. If there's something in here that really resonated with you and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to y'all, make sure you send us an email, or you can DM us on Instagram at Planners Who Profit, or even on Facebook at Planners Who Profit. Contact us. Let us know what you're thinking. And I can't wait to see you in the next podcast. All right. Cheers, enjoy. And until then, have an eventful week. If you're an event planner who does amazing work, I'm talking your family, your friends, and your clients tell you that you do an amazing job, and you bring everything across the finish line and plan the most beautiful events, but now you're ready to actually make real money in your business and pay yourself monthly, it's time for you to apply to join the Planners Who Profit Accelerator Program. This 6-month accelerator program gives you the tools that you need to hit your first $70,000 to $100,000 a year even if you are still working a full-time job. Our goal is to help you to build a profitable business so that you can leave your day job on your terms. To learn more about working with us in the Planners Who Profit Accelerator, make sure you visit plannerswhoprofit.com and apply. By the way, if you've already exceeded 100,000 in sales, please go ahead and apply, and we'll let you know all the information about joining the Planners Who Profit Mastermind, designed to take you to even higher heights. We look forward to seeing you on the inside, because life is so much better in the PWP squad.